Round 4. Innovation. The definition of innovation: new or different introduced. In other words, start something new that it will be followed out of influence, which may or may not have a future. Platforming is one thing, but making the game different and expanding the platform genre as a whole is another. Clearly, platformers have a huge history of making a lot of innovations, and they're far from running out of gas with new ideas to put out. So let's see what's new on the table from these games. Let's start with Super Mario Galaxy 2. I know, I keep saying it over and over again, but the only thing that Super Mario Galaxy 2 is different than Mario Galaxy 1 is the addition of Yoshi. It's much more easier to switch characters with Luigi, different level selection, and new power-ups. But to be honest here, nothing felt new, different, nor does it feel like anything improved. I'm not going to pretend like this game changed anything, when in fact, it's more or less the same as the last Mario Galaxy. And if Nintendo is going to make Mario Galaxy 3, I strongly ask them to make the power-ups to last throughout the level and other levels, because I hate being timed or heavily limited whenever I have a power-up in the 3D Mario game, and unable to use them in a different level. But nonetheless, if there's anything new or innovative in Super Mario Galaxy 2, it would have to be the addition of Yoshi. And I have to say, I'm glad that they made Yoshi right for this game, because in Super Mario Sunshine, they made Yoshi vulnerable, and making him shoot out juice was just stupid. The Sly Cooper Collection. These games in this collection did not change anything lately. Well, what do you expect? It's a compilation putting all the classics into one disc. However, the stuff that Sucker Punch has creatively started in 2002, mixing stealth with platformer, has not aged for me and the fans of the series. Granted, it's not the best stealth mechanics we've seen in the gaming industry, but at least platformers have caught up with the concept of mixing them together. Is it anything new today? No. The concept of stealth of platforming still remains in the Sly games as its own identity. The only difference we have in the compilation disc is that it's playable with the PlayStation Move. But you guys already know my reaction about playing this collection on the PlayStation Move. But what I like about the Sonic games is that they're always different from each other. We just got two really good ones this year. Sonic the Hedgehog 4 really isn't totally new, but it brought the homing attacks in the 2D series, and Sonic Colors was just the game I've been waiting for. I sure did enjoy the other ones before it, but this one here is the adventure that I've been expecting in the series, for that it has a futuristic feel in it. Other than that, Sonic Colors is Sonic Unleashed without the Werehog, or any of those dumb mini-games that ruins the experience. Is any of these Sonic games different from every one of them? Not exactly, to be honest, but if Sega keeps the speed in the series, I'm fully satisfied. Kirby's Epic Yarn's design itself is innovative because it has design and graphics so well made that it almost looks like it was made by yarn and cloth. This really shows what video games can do in terms of creativity and design, on which it was very different than any other game in this competition. Yep, turning Kirby into a yarn took away his ability to inhale his enemies and steal their powers is kinda disappointing. Having Donkey Kong Country Returns returning to the gaming industry has changed a lot, and the series forced itself to change with it. It's no longer two Kongs adventuring with one Kong leading and the other one waits for his turn to lead like how we all remembered, but rather you have a health bar, Diddy riding on DK's back in single player, and a better two-player co-op than both all the DK games and Kirby's Epic Yarn combined. And having Diddy to have his peanut gun and jetpack from Donkey Kong 64 was all helpful. One of the biggest features in the series is that visiting other Kongs in the map world is worth the visit, because visiting Cranky Kong, you can buy items with the collected banana coins to get power-ups and more useful items. If anything, Donkey Kong Country Returns really changed the series, but still manages to keep all the elements we knew from the series, plus taking advantage of 2.5D games. Limbo brought this film noir style of gaming in the platform genre. It's been over a decade since we've seen a cinematic platformer, since Heart of Darkness and Oddworld Abe's Exodus. It has made it all extraordinary to see everything created as you adventure on, seeing disturbing visuals. And most of all, it has some of the most brutal death sequences you can find in today's platformers. I'm gonna say that this one is new on the table because it has grabbed an old torch that we all thought was dead and brought some new ideas, one of which you can platform on corpses. I repeat, platform on corpses. That itself is intuitive, creative, and overall sick. But anything new that came out all year is definitely Epic Mickey. Having the ability to shoot paint that can appear or vanquish interactive objects brings creativity and interactions into a whole new level. There's so many parts in Epic Mickey that's so intuitive throughout. Clearly, this is some of the most creative games that I've seen in a very long time. Having Mickey to have the painting ability itself is innovative. I can hardly imagine what game after this would bring more creativity than Epic Mickey. I just want to say one more thing. Having the ability to communicate with other friendly characters in the game, it just adds this RPG feel, and you can never expect that in the platforming genre. But it shouldn't come as a surprise because this game was made by Warren Spector, and he is most known for making some of the greatest RPGs of all time. I don't want to put any of these games down, but what I consider to be the least innovative platformer this year is Super Meat Boy. I really did enjoy this game, but rules are rules. Seriously, this game had a lot of wonderful platforming and some of the most well thought out challenges that you can ask for in the 2D platformer. But let's be honest here, is this game going to change anything? For Sonic 4, it's continuing the classic 2D Sonic series, and Limbo is a major comeback to cinematic platformers. But with Super Meat Boy, no offense, but it looks like something that you can find on free internet games like Newgrounds. Even if it made veterans like me satisfied, I just can't see Super Meat Boy revolutionary and put anything new on the table like all the other ones in this competition. So the one eliminated? Super Meat Boy. And that's the end of Round 4. Round 5, Collectibles. What keeps the boredom of reaching point A to B is starting from point A and have something at least interesting between point B. So how do you make anything interesting in platformers other than obstacles and platforming? Simple, just put a bunch of stuff that's all collectible. For me, the best collectibles are some of the most rewarding, like the bolts in Ratchet & Clank where you can use them to buy weapons and gadgets. But at times, these collectibles will make traces of them to direct where the player has to go. So let's look at these collectibles in each of these games. Like all the Sonic games, Sonic the Hedgehog 4 and Sonic Colors has their signature rings where they act as his protection before getting killed. If Sonic were hit by an enemy or a deadly object, he dies. But with the rings, he remains alive, but all the rings that he collected are scattered. But the biggest reward of collecting them is that if you collect 100 rings, you earn a life. But if you're a Sonic fan, you should already know this, and this shouldn't come as a surprise with these two games. I just can't imagine a Sonic game without those rings. For the Sly games in the Sly Collection, every 100 coins collected, Sly gains a lucky horseshoe that will allow him to take extra hits. If he currently has one, an extra life. Also, Sly can reach subsection of the lair contained a number of clue bottles, which when collected, allows Sly to access the safe in the level that contains the page of the Thievius Raccoonus from the first one. In Kirby's Epic Yarn, there are colored beads that are scattered throughout the level, which Kirby can collect to increase the score and earn medals at the end of each level, which in turn provides side levels that provide greater challenge. Super Mario Galaxy 2. There's nothing really new in terms of collectibles. You got coins to collect, which will raise your health, if damaged, and beat the record of the most collected coins for each level. The Star Bits remains in the series, which purpose is to shoot enemies with your Wii Remote and feed Lumas, who's gonna trade it for a new planet/galaxy or passageway and a green mushroom that you can find in secret areas that will give you 1 life. And let's not forget that the main object of all the 3D Mario games is to collect stars. And this one is no different. But for every star you collect, you exit the level and then you return to the home world and decide what's your next level. And then you return to the same level to face a new challenge. Epic Mickey surprisingly has collectibles within the adventure, in which nobody really mentions it. You have this easy stuff to collect called e-tickets that you can find anywhere, like vases, chests, hidden areas, and traces of them to direct where the player has to go. These e-tickets are important because you can communicate with any other character to buy stuff with the e-tickets. In return, they can give you new items or a new passageway. You have main collectibles like pins. Pins are main collectibles in Epic Mickey, and it takes around 3 playthroughs at normal pace to find all of them. There are 20 bronze pins, 17 silver pins, 20 gold pins, and 48 special pins, in which return you can unlock bonus features in which a Disney fan like myself, excuse me, an old school Disney fan like myself that will love spending time collecting pins to unlock these bonus features. But hands down, the biggest and best collectibles of this line of platformers this year is Donkey Kong Country Returns. You still have the nostalgic bananas to collect that are so easy to earn, DK balloons, aka lives, KONG letters, and a ton of secrets to find, in which it will reward you for playing through the minigame. And plus new collectibles like the puzzle pieces. Be warned, in the beginning of the game, it starts easy, but later in the game, it will become unfairly difficult, in which you need some boost. That's where Cranky Kong comes in and saves the day because he has his own shop where you can buy power-ups and more with the bananas you collect, which itself makes collecting bananas feel more important than ever before. However, buy any of these items in Cranky's shop does cost quite a bit of banana coins, but they're only one-time use only. That's the reason why you have to use those items wisely. I know that this is almost the end of round 5, and rules are rules, so we have to name the loser. And I hate to admit this, because it's almost a sin to even say it. Okay, it's Limbo. I love this game to death, and it's one of my favorite games of the year. But for a round expecting collectibles, there's hardly anything to collect in Limbo. This does not destroy Limbo's reputation of being a fantastic platformer this year, and I really want Limbo to last till the final round, but I can't break the rules in the game. I know adding music and collectibles would ruin the experience, but the Platinum Platformer Awards is expecting all the qualifications in this competition. I really regret saying this, but since this game doesn't have collectibles, which is required, Limbo is eliminated. You see what you made me do? I hate all of you for making me do this. This is one of my favorite games of 2010, but we have to move on. This is the end of round 5. Round 6, longevity. Okay, this is a word that I made up, but I think the best platformer has to be the longest, and I can't accept short games as the greatest of all time. The more hours you get playing any video game in general is the one worth the money. This round, I judge on how long or how many levels there are in each game. So let's make it quick and make a long story short. For Kirby's Epic Yarn, there are so many levels to complete. I lost count, but each level, there are bonus levels that is definitely worth the experience. But in telling how many hours of gameplay you'll get out of this game, I'm going to say not that many considering that the game is almost too easy, especially for a Kirby game. But in Sonic Colors, it's just as long, if not longer, than Sonic Adventures 1 and 2. And some of the features in this game that were put in features challenge mode, in which players can play all the levels continuously and upload their total score online on the leaderboards. And if you're one of those Sonic fans that loves to beat time limits and high score, you should definitely check this out. But one game that's almost impossible to beat in one sitting is Super Mario Galaxy 2. There are a lot of levels that will test your platforming skills that will cause you to die and face a lot of trial and error. Of course, just collecting stars just to get through the final boss will reduce your hours of gameplay by half, but if you're willing to collect all the stars, then it will take you hours upon hours to collect them all, plus facing a lot of difficult levels just as it did with the first Mario Galaxy. In Donkey Kong Country Returns, if you play it straight through it will take you about 8 to 11 hours to complete. But if you're a completionist who's willing to complete all the Kong letters, puzzle pieces, and bonus levels, then it will take you more hours to finish. Plus the later levels gets even harder. But here's the surprising thing about Epic Mickey. It's quite a long game to play. And after beating it, you're still not finished because the replay value is very high. Heck, it's incredibly high right after your first run because you have to get to location like any other game, but rarely there's a game like Epic Mickey that has different directions to go in reaching those locations. But this 3D platformer is not done right after finishing the game. Heck, if you want to unlock all the stuff and visit the places you want to go, because there's no turning back when playing through it on the first play. And in the second playthrough, you have that opportunity. But if you ask me what is the longest platformer that came this year, it would have to be the Sly Collection, hands down. Why? Long story short, 3 games into one. And for $40 with HD and new features is the ultimate deal. But the loser for this round should come as no surprise, because this is one of the shortest games of the year, Sonic the Hedgehog 4. I really did like this game, but it wasn't enough. I know battling Dr. Robotnik at the end was the best of the series, and I love how epic it actually was. But for a $15 downloadable game that was just released episodically, you should expect more from Sega. I just can't believe it took me a single day to beat this game, especially there are only 20 levels in this game. It's not enough being charged $15. That's way overpriced. I've played $10 games and less that has more hours of gameplay than this. The continents and other stuff, where they expect you to replay the game, still doesn't make it up for how short and underwhelming Episode 1 actually is. The only way you can find Sonic the Hedgehog 4 at all long is if you suck at playing it. Hands down, the loser has to be Sonic the Hedgehog 4, Episode 1. So that's the end of Round 6. Join with us next time on the Platinum Platform Awards Part 4.